But yeah, so I mean, with the non-alcoholic beer, yeah, I've always been like that too. I'm like, it's almost like, see, with me, it's the same with, okay, now we're live. So what's funny is like on one side of my screen, we're not live. And then the other, okay, I guess we are live. Okay. So anyway, what I was talking about, guys, first of all, hey, everybody, is Jesse and James. And we are going to be having a chat today. We're going to be taking some questions and basically having a fun time. One of the big reasons why we're talking to you today is because we want to give you some information about our upcoming event in Wisconsin. We've done this one time before, and now we're doing it again. And so we're coming back. But I was we were just talking because yesterday, I got this case of beer in the mail. And it was like, exactly. I was like, someone sent me a free case of beer, and it looked really like there's IPAs, there's pale ales, really diverse selection. And, there's even like some wine coolers, if that's your jam, and so I was like, okay. And then it was all non-alcoholic, and I'm like, but here's the thing. So I've actually noticed a lot of these non-alcoholic styles of beers. And what happened was James, he started doing this 75 hard. And I have a few friends who have done this before, but I was just, before we went on, I was asking James, I was like, hey brother, I was about to ask, have you ever had a non-alcoholic beer? But I remember when we were in Wisconsin last time, he had a non-alcoholic beer. So that just goes to really show me how long 75 days is.
Yeah.
I mean, that is a serious.
The very good news is I finish Saturday night when we're up in Wisconsin. So on Sunday afternoon, I'll have a beer with everyone.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so awesome. Okay, wait a minute. So you don't even finish until the Saturday?
Saturday midnight is my last day.
Oh, wow.
I think it's Saturday. It might be Friday. I'll have to double check. But when we worked out the date for this second thing, it was just one of those things that came up. I'm like, because I do remember, right, you having a beer and going, yeah, that was a great weekend, and you know, like a little celebratory thing. I'm like, dude, like I felt like a bit of a Debbie Downer, right? And then Justin up there at Sand Valley said, well, we have a non-alcoholic, and I'm like,
because they used to be awful, right? They used to. I mean, it used to just be like we were just saying, why not? Why would you just go ahead and have a seltzer water or something like that? Okay, but anyway, we are excited because we're going back. Yeah, we're going to be doing this again. So Sand Valley Resort in really a smack dab in the middle of Wisconsin. So if you guys have questions, what happens is a lot of times this chat box likes to be contrary, as Midwesterner grandmothers love to say. So I'm trying to put like little smiley faces in there, maybe because
why don't you work on the chat box there a little bit, and I'll just tell people. So we're,
do that.
We're back in Sand Valley, right? We got invited up there. I think it was January 8th through 10 earlier this year. So it was the inaugural. And, to be quite honest, we were pretty damn good at what we did. And they loved us. I mean, Sand Valley's a great place, but we were awesome. And the crew that we had was awesome. So we were invited back. So it's starting I think it's Friday the 26th of March through Sunday the 28th of March. So arrive Friday, evening, cocktail hour, and then, so we get to connect and greet and meet and greet. And then Saturday, we go into the work. It's a breath work and cold exposure, different things to all through Saturday. You have some free time to explore. Sand Valley's a golf resort, central Wisconsin, 10,000 acres, beautiful, pristine woodlands and different things.
And it's really kind of set like it's in the middle of nowhere, which I love. I really do love that because you really do feel like, I remember we walked outside, I forget if it was Saturday night or Sunday night or Friday night, I forget what night, but we looked up and you saw all the stars.
Oh,
I mean, it was just this beautiful place to, first of all, get away from it all. And then also to be around other people, right?
Other crazies, right? Like,
exactly.
Yeah.
So especially other crazy people. It's like we always say, it's the right kind of weird, right?
Yeah, right.
And we had a great group this last time, and some of you guys may be watching. So hey, thanks for coming out. It was just a really good time. The thing is, what I've always noticed about doing any kind of event, like a Wim Hof method event, is that you usually get people from all different walks of life. It's never just one singular type of person. It's always, hey, whoa, we have completely different backgrounds, or we have different
engineers and PAs and teenagers and nurses and mothers and all kinds, right?
Yeah, we had a mother-daughter, and we had some friends that came together, but most of the time people just come by themselves. Yep. And I always find that to be really cool. And whenever you're just really saying, you know what, I'm open to this experience, I'm gonna go 100% and just see what happens, meet new people. And a lot of the people that met, that was one of the biggest
highlights.
Things, it's like meeting all these other people.
When we had our Friday night, sort of cocktail hour, and then Saturday morning yoga, right? And I'm no yogi, but I rocked up and I was running a little bit late. There was hardly any room in the room, right? Like we were spacing out like how we could. And I was like, whoa, I'm going to squeeze in at the back here because I had to leave early anyway. But so yoga, and then, all the other activities that you can do up there at the resort, like, the nature walk was just amazing. A couple of the Hoffers did a bare chested right out in.
That's what I talk about. That's the thing. We didn't even like say, because at that point of the day, honestly, the cold training had, at least on the docket, right. For the day.
It was the box, right?
Like the challenge had been met.
Yeah.
But no, we had such enthusiastic people who were like, nah, dude, bring it on. It was so cool to see.
Yeah.
We've got a question in the comments. Daniel, let's see here. Could you write in the chat the dates? It's March 27th.
26th, Friday 26th through March 20, Sunday, March 28th. And so if you get up there, you don't have to be there on the Friday night. It's about a 3 to 4 hour drive from the Chicagoland area, depending on whether you're north. It's northwest of Chicago, smack dab, pretty much central Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. And then if all goes to plan, you're probably out of there by, I'd say 2:30, 3 o'clock on Sunday afternoon. So you can get home, sort of in a reasonable time. If you're coming from Chicago, I think it's a similar distance to Minneapolis and those sorts of things. So, that's the plan. If you can't make it Friday night, not a big deal. Like for the cocktail hour, which I think is 5 till 6:30, so I think it's 5 till 6:30.
Right. Yeah. And that's a great opportunity just to kind of mix and mingle, to say, hey, who's here, see what's up. If you don't make it, it's not the end of the world. You're certainly going to form bonds, and it's going to be awesome. Yeah. But it was really kind of nice. And this place, guys, I've done workshops and events for years now. I've been to, I don't know how many venues. This place is one of the best. It really is. 5-star. Whenever, I mean, I don't know exactly what the rubrics are for determining 5 stars, but I would say, this would be a very good example. It's such a nice place. The food's great.
We have the whole place, right?
Yes,
it's necessarily designed that way, but we will be pretty much the only people there other than the staff, who are phenomenal. We have the whole place to ourselves.
One thing that I was kind of blown away by, that I didn't really expect, was how good the food was going to be. Like,
Chef John up there is pretty phenomenal. And while we're talking about that, just so
yeah.
people know, so there's the cocktail hour and there's some food and apps which are great, which is part of the price ticket, and then you get breakfast Monday, Saturday, and Sunday. So breakfast is included. They have a full restaurant and a great menu. That's so then you can grab your own lunch and your own dinner on Saturday, Friday and Saturday night, and then lunch there as well. So
Jessica Johnson, she says, can you post the start time on Friday? Is there a check-in time for the cocktail hour, or check-in time or cocktail hour? I heard it should end by 2:30 to 3 o'clock on Sunday. So yeah, we're not 100% sure. Let's see, but as far as
last event, we were back at the lodge by 1 o'clock.
Yeah,
so because you and I are pretty good.
What can we say? There's nothing wrong with knowing that you're good, right? So
well, and I should clarify. I don't want to sound too bodacious, but you and I've worked together a lot now, right? And
we've practiced.
We practice. We put in a lot of work. Jesse and I do a lot of recon up there to make sure we know the process really well. So you can check in, I believe, anytime after noon on Friday, unless you want to stay there on Thursday night, which is also optional, because the resort is beautiful. But I think so. If you were, on your leisure on Friday, you could wander up there. And I'm sure if you got there earlier than noon, there's a place to put your bags and that sort of stuff. But there'll be someone by noontime on Friday, so you can check in. And then you'll go. It's like a regular hotel check-in. They'll give you, your room. And just, while we're talking about that, maybe we'll talk about pricing.
Yeah.
So there's two options that have options within themselves. So you can, it's $425 per night per room if you are having a regular, what they call a clubhouse room, which has two queen size beds. Most of them have two queen size beds. So if there's two of you sharing a room, then obviously the cost is the same. And so that's $425 per room per night. And then there's another option if there is a group of you. They have cottages, and they have a 4-bedroom cottage,
really
which
nice.
has one. I believe it's either queen. I'll say queen because I know some of them have king, but there's a queen size bed, and you have your own ensuite bathroom. So you're not sharing a bathroom with anybody else. So it's a cottage with 4 bedrooms. There's a common area, and that's $1,300 per night. So it's a little bit cheaper that way. If you wanted couples and you want have a cottage. Otherwise, there's the clubhouse room that's $425 per person. I mean per room per night.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then included in that, of course, is all of the activities we're going to be doing.
Yep.
Both days of Wim Hof method training, the daily activities as far as I think there's that. The nature hike was on Saturday, as I recall. And I tell you what, it's interesting. I actually can't wait to learn more about this environment because the people they have on staff are just amazing. And I forget her name, but the woman who did the tour, just,
So like one story from that, right?
Yeah.
It's open plain, kind of, I'll call it tundra, but
Yeah.
sand hills because it's a glacial thing. They have an endangered butterfly there, right? And what Sand Valley has done is actually brought back some of the natural fauna, which is some of the flowers that this butterfly, it's native to central Wisconsin. So Sand Valley on its own has done some great conservation work about elevating the population of this specific butterfly. But there's countless stories of them bringing back the natural fauna, because it used to be a forestry preserve, right? So there was a lot of pine forest and that sort of thing, and so they're bringing back a lot of the natural habitat for both animals, insects, and birds, for sure.
Yeah. So a lot of nature, a lot of camaraderie, just just a lot of fun. And then I forget exactly what are the meals as far as are there things included there as well?
So breakfast Saturday and Sundays included, and then as it was on the Friday night, it's pretty heavy apps. They were good apps.
Yeah.
So it was, you can add an adult beverage if you want, that's on us. It's a cocktail hour, and we'll be in an open room, with plenty of space. Some of the other activities, you can fat tire bike if you want to. You can ice skate on one of the lakes. My son, who was 10 years old, was up there, and they tubed, and he said it was the fastest tube he's ever been on. They went up this hill, and that you tube down this hill, and you end up on a lake, like on a frozen lake. So you tube out onto this frozen lake. So he was ecstatic.
Yeah, he was having a great time. Fishing and
ice fishing.
Yeah. That, I tell you what, there's a lot of things to do. In addition to that, of course, obviously we're going to be blowing minds and having a great time. But now this time I'm bringing my kiddo. He's 5. So I'm looking forward to seeing what he thinks about the place. I don't know if we've gone fishing before, but I'm not sure, kind of how he would take to ice fishing. But the cool thing about this place is, at least it was last time. It was covered in snow, super cold, super perfect. And either way, we're going to be able to take a natural cold dip in one of their pristine lakes.
Yeah.
And so that was a lot of fun. And if you've seen one of the videos I put up of James and I, we had a lot of fun doing that. And I got to say, okay, so I posted a video about us doing that. But the thing that I didn't get to put in there was my fun with the auger. And so I just want to tell the story.
Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Okay, so James, he was, first of all, a lot of these times you have a chainsaw. And James, maybe we should bring a chainsaw. It
will be brought this time.
Okay, thank God. All right. But what they did have was an auger, and this of course basically it's a drill that you get down. Now, first of all, I'm going to stop you. I'm going to stop this right now because you look at what James is doing now, real quick. Real quick. Like I was talking to him about doing the non-alcoholic beers, and actually I'm tempted to just try it while we're on the air here because my refrigerator is just over here. Maybe I'll crack open an IPA, a non-alcoholic IPA. But he's got this. It's a pitcher, isn't it?
Yeah. Jug with a straw, mate. And it's a stainless steel straw. You're also saving the environment.
Amen to that, my friend. Those stainless steel straws are actually kind of addictive, though. Because really you just wash them and then they're there. Because I've never been a big straw guy, but my wife, she started drinking all of her beverages with a straw.
You get through the water quicker drinking it through a straw than you do like plugging it.
Yeah, there is that too. I guess.
Which is good for non-alcoholic drinks, probably not so good for alcoholic drinks.
That's true. That was the trick when we were in like whenever I was younger. See, growing up in America, when did you come over?
When I was North America, so I moved to Canada I was 20 years old.
Okay, so I'd been
drinking for 2 years by that time because
of course,
illegal drinking.
And let's face it, Australia is not exact. It's not like it's. We've got a lot of similarities in the way we like to party, right. So I remember people. There was, I don't know if it's an urban legend or what, but if you drank beer with a straw, you somehow got drunker faster or something like that. So we were like, well, let's try it. We only have 6 beers between, all of us. So let's try, it was, all of the dregs of youth. But anyway, back to what we were talking about, which was something that I have actually forgotten. We were talking about the auger. So yes. So James he made this hole in the ice, and it was awesome. And this is how cold it was. It was literally, he made this hole in the ice, and the next day we had to really work it to get in there again. Well, we hop in, he hops in, and he's like, Jesse, I've got good news and bad news. Good news, it's plenty cold. He said, bad news is, and James is a good, I don't know, you're maybe 5 inches taller than I am.
Yeah,
you're
I'm
6,
about
what?
Yeah.
6'5"? Yeah, I'm about 6'1", somewhere around there. And he's like, he was up to here. He's like, this is where it is on me standing up. So I got in there. I was just like swimming around and stuff. So we had to make another hole. And so I thought, I'll take the auger for a minute, because one of us was
and what we're trying to do is like probably a 6 foot by 3 foot, or maybe 7 foot by 3 foot rectangle is what we're trying to do. So we had to drill holes, then you had to cut out in between the whole, chip out
with a chipper. Yeah, because we basically it was laborious, but we were trying to do like a connect the dots type of a deal, and then like chip it out. So after a while of me chipping, I was like, I'm gonna try that auger out. Maybe it's easier because here I am slaving away, Anyway, I go over there and I have no idea what I'm doing. And it's evident. I'm like, water's coming out all over me. And I'm like, okay, James, you can take the auger again. I think
Jesse was vibrating at a very high frequency there for a little while.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Jessica asked, will vegetarians be able to eat the appetizers and the breakfast? Yes.
Yes, definitely.
There's vegetarian options for vegetarians.
Oatmeal and different other things for breakfast. While we're there, let's just like we talked about a lot of the activities that either, we're doing or the resort offers. So Saturday will be, there's yoga in the morning. Again, all optional, right? You can come up and hang out if you want to. But so yoga, I believe, is 7:30 till 8:30. And then at 9:30 till 12:30, we're essentially going to run through sort of a Wim Hof workshop. Yeah. And then from that'll include, some science, some story, breath work, cold exposure. And then 12:30 until I think it's 5 o'clock, you're basically on your own. So you can have lunch. Yeah. There'll be organized hike that you can go on. You can rent some fat bikes. You can just, go back to sleep if you want to.
One thing I enjoyed was how many fire pits they had at this place. Like that was, it was one of those things where I really got into camping over the summer with my family because we wanted to travel, but with COVID and everything, it was just kind of, so we started doing that a lot, and I never really appreciated that. So I never knew how much I missed a real open fire.
And they chop the wood, and it's a wood burn. They're all wood burning fireplaces, and they're awesome. So, and then Saturday afternoon, after you've had your free time, I think it's about 5 o'clock, we're going to do Q&A and then another breath work. So if you've had some epiphanies during the day, or you have general questions, or even not general questions, you have real specific questions, we're going to be available, and that'll be about 60 to 90 minutes, and we'll take you through a different breath work. And then it's dinner time. Sunday, same deal. We'll have yoga in the morning, and then we're going to do some power breathing. And Sunday, is less workshop, sort of less theory, more action, right? Yeah. So we're going to do some power breathing Sunday, and then we'll go from there, and we'll go and do the lake dip.
Yeah, and one of the cool things is, and this is something we get this question a lot, and just to kind of let you guys know, some people ask, hey, do I need to already have a Wim Hof method practice in place to get the full advantage of this? Or can I come at it from just like, I don't know anything, and vice versa, right? Some people are like, hey, I've been practicing for years. Would this be, beneficial to me? Is it something where I would get something out of it? And I think it's good for everybody. We had a good mix, I would say. A lot of people who had done Wim Hof method for quite some time. Some people, their first time, and you can always tell the first time, right? Because after the breath work, it's like, and I've even had sometimes people like, did you feel that? Right? And it's like, dude, I know, man. It's amazing. And so, but whether you've done a lot of Wim Hof method already, or or maybe you've just dabbled, maybe you've been just kind of messing around with it a little bit. The nice thing is what we'll do on Saturday would be perfect for a person who's been practicing and you want to kind of perfect your practice, or at least work on the technical parts and really get a better handle on, okay, this is approximately what we're doing. And then what we see a lot of times, especially with these types trainings, the stuff we're going to do on Saturday. It's great if maybe you've been practicing for a while, but maybe your friend or your spouse or whomever, you're really like, hey, you need this, right? We know what it's like, right? We all know what that's like to say, hey, I've been doing this thing and you're my friend and I love you very much. And I know that me telling you this, I've told you like 20 times that you need this. It's not working. So, hey, what do you say about that? We need to go out for an event. And it's a great deep dive, and it really allows a person to experience it in a really deep way and in a way that's with other people.
I think that's probably one of the biggest advantages of doing, group breath work, right? And for me, it was transcendental might not be too strong a word, but when you're in a group of people that have the same energy and are doing the same thing, what you lose is all that self-consciousness, or at least a lot of it around, am I doing it right? Your eyes are closed, you're on your back, you're there for you. But so you're not so concerned about, am I doing it right? No, I'm doing this. You've been given a little theory. You've been able to do a little practice. You've got two instructors who not only know what they're doing, but love and care about the method and how how you approach it. And so it really lets all of any of those preconceived notions of worry or concern or to let that go, which then just really helps you relax and you tend to experience, greater depth, connection, whatever sort of word you want to put to that type of thing when you're doing it in a group, because the energy in that room just elevates, right? It's palpable. Walking around while people are breathing in that way is one of my favorite things to do, and certainly to experience.
Being with other people doing deep breath work, right? I mean, just think about that. You're all you're breathing at the same pace. You're all doing this thing, and that is incredibly personal, right? Because your breathing is the thing you do your whole life, and you do it your way, right? And that's the thing. We change, we can adjust, we can learn, but that's the thing. It's like there's nothing else in life that you don't stop doing. And it's this motion and this thing that now you're sharing it with other people, and you have this kind of a common bond and a common goal, because really, we've got these goals right now, and let's face it, the world is full of anxiety and stress and fears and all this stuff. No one's immune to it. We're all feeling it. So when we get together with other people, it's like, okay, I want to take control of this. I want to get some control back in my life. It feels pretty damn good,
Well, the funny illusion there, though, is the control that you think you're getting back, you're actually letting go and releasing.
Yes. Isn't it? It's that paradox, right?
Yeah.
Of letting go and getting control at the same time.
We're getting in control of what you're in control of, right? And we all want to control things we're not in control of, but
Yeah, because most everything else, most of life is things we're not in control of. And getting that sense of peace, though, is really important. And whenever you look at just the experience, when you think about that experience, that peace, that silence that you get whenever you're in those deep sessions, it's incredibly profound. Now, that's what we're going to be doing on Saturday, right? So we're going to be doing what we might consider it like a fundamentals type of thing, an initiation. I actually prefer it that way. And then on Sunday, we're like you said, it's less instruction, right? It's more just focused on deep dive. Okay, now you've got the basics, you've got the fundamentals, you've got the the essential stuff, and then now let's really crank it up and then see what we can achieve and what we can experience.
Yeah.
And we're going to be doing power breathing. So some of you guys have heard me talk about altered state breath work or psychedelic style breath work. And so power breathing is the kind of breath work that is essentially like if you saw the recent documentary. Yeah. Hey, Eric. Hello. Thanks guys so I'm missing some of the questions and things. I will try to get back to them here in a minute, but hey, nice to see you guys. Thanks for being here. But yeah, DMT Quest, actually Miles Lucas was on here, and he was in the DMT Quest, the documentary.
He was the one had the EKG all set up, and
I kind of want to do something like that sometime. I think what a lucky guy, right? To be able to. And the cool thing is he said they were able to tell him a lot of things just about himself and about how his brain works. And he said that he had a lower than average score for like being able to recognize names and names and faces. And I guarantee I've got that.
So I've done like different breath work, but I've had an EKG twice while like doing a meditative breath work. One was hyperventilative and one was not. So one was similar to Wim Hof, and it's really interesting. Among other things, the frequency, like we talk about alpha, beta, gamma, and delta, all those frequencies that are going on in the head and the different states of consciousness that they're equivalent to. And it is really, really interesting. I would love to be able to get to a place where at a workshop we can have some people, set up for that, because it tells you just, and it's just really cool. And I geek out. I mean, we both sort of geek out a little bit on the science and what's going on. So that's really, really cool. Do you want to answer some questions? Because I do have some science questions for you.
Oh boy. Okay. So actually Nicholas, he says that, he sent me an email a couple of weeks ago. Remind me, this is one of those things where I really do try to reply as much as I can to my, So Rusty Gaming says, James, I'm your biggest fan. Notice me.
Giddy up, Rusty, giddy up.
But I do really try to answer emails, and it's one of those things where I'm very, very blessed to have so many people who reach out to me, and I really do appreciate it. Sometimes I can't respond to everybody. So and of course sometimes it's really hard to remember. So Nicholas, if you want me to go over that, I'd be happy to. Calisthenics says he's talking about Wim Hof breath work against negative effects of wearing masks all day. Well, and this is one of the things I'll expand that. So, basically, what do you think about Wim Hof method breath work to work against negative effects of wearing masks all day? I'll expand that to just how it would Wim Hof method breath work, or just deep breathing in general, right? So superventilation is what we're doing, but we'll talk about Wim Hof method breath work. Basically, I would say what you're doing when you do that style of breath work is, you're allowing your lungs to fully activate. Hopefully you're in a place where you have fresh air. Now, this is something where you can do a lot with breath work, regardless of your air quality, right? So if I'm breathing in a certain way, I can send signals to my autonomic nervous system. Okay. And there's going to be autonomic nervous system changes. But if I'm breathing deeply and there's a bunch of smoke in the air, or dust or pollen, or, whatever, just junk in the air, well, I'm also getting that into my lungs. So of course I always recommend, especially if you're in a situation like that, to do nasal breathing. So practice nasal breathing, but yeah, deep breath, that's going to enhance your breathing mechanics. Of course, we could go on and on about that forever, but I think,
I was reading a recent study that actually done a study about, I guess, elevate like people's stress. Actually, the idea of putting on a mask, and when you think about the masks, but if you think about putting on a mask in general, right, it changes our emotional state. And what they found is people who put a mask on, it elevates. Generally speaking, it's elevating a stress response, because it's a defensive mechanism, right? Yeah. So the idea of doing any sort of breath work, sort of to your point, right? Yeah. Like doing deep breath work, that whole idea of Wim Hof being able to tap into your autonomic nervous system, and we're getting a spike in that acute stress, right? And so then we're going to, hormesis, and you can talk a lot more about that. But I think if you take that idea that when we put on a mask, it's almost telling us to be a little elevated from a stress standpoint, whether it's conscious or subconscious. You're like, okay, I've got to put my armor on to go outside. So your body's already a little bit, so if you can come home, take your mask off, and then do 3 rounds of deep breathing.
I think I just, not to interrupt, but I'm so excited about what you're saying though, but I think simply like to go to the grocery store or whatever it is, right? Putting that on, there's a certain degree of anxiety you're putting on with that too. Not to mention you're elevating because what you're doing is also trapping the CO2. So you're trapping CO2 and you're breathing more CO2 in, which is going to elevate that level of CO2, right? Creating hypercapnia. And that in itself can cause the sense of anxiety. So there's a lot of that. And man, just whenever you get home, whenever you get to a place, just walk outside.
Yeah.
Here in the Midwest, I don't know how it is up in Chicago, but we had, 2 weeks of like snowmageddon. Yeah. It was just so cold. It was awesome for a hoffer, but man, it was straight up as cold can get. And it was like over a foot of snow. Today it's like almost, I guess 55, 60 degrees. Yeah. It's amazing. It's like, oh, spring. Yeah. I feel all those emotions. I'm like so happy. I'm like, oh, it's like spring. I mean, there was so much snow that there's still snow on the ground, even though it's like 60 degrees outside.
We're not quite at 60. But we're at 40s, but yeah.
But still, I mean, it's just a huge change. But there's just go outside. Just go outside and practice a little breath work to interrupt all that anxiety that builds up.
I think that's that interrupt word's a great thing.
Yeah.
With a lot of stuff is we're interrupting a pattern, right? You're interrupting a pattern that we go through. So whether it's consciously or doing the physiological interrupt, because from the mask effect, whether it's that conscious, I'm arming up to now I'm disarming by, doing some deep breaths. So yeah, I think absolutely that answers that question.
Yeah. It answers it so well that I'm going to get a non-alcoholic beer and give you a cheers.
So if you can hear me, Jesse, while I'll talk, I'm going to set up some questions I have for you.
Okay.
That we can discuss a little bit, because recently I was out in Colorado at elevation. I was at about 8,000 feet, which is right on the cusp of what I guess they term high altitude. And, as usual, I do my breath work in the morning. And when I don't have certain things, I just get on the on YouTube and do the Wim Hof. Wim has a couple of those. Well, there's breathing things, and so anyway, there's music, and it's hold for 2 minutes, 2 minutes, 2.5 minutes, and 3 minutes, and that's like in a pinch. I probably do that 3 times a week. Listen to him. I like his voice.
There is kind of something to having the master, there at your side.
So I get out there. I think we're out there I think we flew out there on a Friday, right? So I'm at 8,000 feet. I wake up in the morning, get out in the living room, and I start my breath work, and like the body's used to the pattern, right? And all of a sudden, I'm not counting anything. I'm just going along, and then I'm holding my breath, and I'm starting to feel like, okay, that 2 minutes must be coming closer. And then I'm like, I'm not hearing him saying, okay, take your recovery breath, and I'm sort of squeezing. Then I'm really like going. Anyway, I'm like, dude, I got to take my recovery breath. I'm like, and then I open my eyes and I look on my phone and I'm like, 1:16.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I stopped. I went and grabbed my O2 meter, put my O2 meter on. I'm like, I'm going to, Sure enough, I put my O2 meter on and it was at 91 and I'd done 1 round already. Right. So then I'm sort of sitting there and then my pulse rate was at 94, which is elevated. And so I'm like, hang on a second. Anyway. Yeah. So the long story short was, it took me 3 days of doing my breath work before I could, hold my breath for as long as I normally do. I don't want to get into numbers so much because it's not about that. But I can usually hold my breath, for X amount of time. And it took me 3 days. By the 3rd and 4th round, I was okay. But 2 things. So my O2 slowly increased each morning. So I take it before my breath work. But for the 2 or 3 days, as I guess I was acclimatizing, I was at 89 or 90, which is pretty low. because I'm usually at 95, 96, 97. I was able to get my O2 all the way up to 99 on my O2 meter during the breath work. But I guess, it then made me get really sort of crazy about altitude, red blood cells, hemoglobin, dissolved O2, and so, I was just really interested in like, it sort of just spun me for a loop, because I was really like busting my nut to sort of hold the, like, I was like, ooh, and I was like half what I'm used to doing. So I just wanted to, sort of throw some of that out there to you and say, what's your experience with doing the breath work at altitude?
Yeah, well, actually, when I did my master class training, we did it in Denver. We landed in Denver and then we went up to the mountains from there. And so, yeah, that's whenever I really experienced that, exactly what you're talking about. And then we also climbing the mountain that we climbed. There was a significant change there too. It's like, okay, so there is that aspect of it. And what you have is you do get some differences in your gas exchange when you're breathing, simply because of the differences in pressure.
Yeah,
it's one of those things that it's not such a big difference that, you, like you said, you adapted in a few days and it's and you're kind of back to normal. But I mean, that is essentially why, people go to higher altitudes to train. And they've shown that is essentially what you're getting less oxygen in every breath, right? And so there's a difference in the gas exchange as a result. And so it will affect, okay, how much carbon dioxide did I let go? How long can I hold my breath? Because remember, carbon dioxide, that's why we want to breathe. And so there's all these different changes that are differences. They're not necessarily, it's just because of the environment. But yeah, and what happens is over time, your body's like, well, I guess we're going to have to produce a little EPO, which is going to help us produce more red blood cells and hemoglobin.
Fascinating.
And you experience it in real time. Doing that.
So that was what was fascinating to me, right? It's like, the common theme is there's less oxygen, and there is, but at sea level, we're about 21% oxygen in at 1 atmosphere, right? It's about 21%. When you go up there, it's still 21%, but because there's less air molecules because of the less pressure, you're breathing in less. So they said at 8,000 feet, I think it was, somewhere around 15%, right? So we had about a 30% drop effectively in the amount of oxygen that you're breathing in. And then what was interesting too, like things I didn't know, right, is you do produce EPO. The only thing I'd heard of EPO before was when Lance Armstrong and cyclists got done for EPO doping. But EPO is an endogenous substance.
We produce it,
that helps us produce. So your body then goes, hang on a second, more EPO, more red blood cells.
Yes.
And then I ended up on threads with, high performance athletes where they're saying, the best way to do it is to live high so your body gets used to it, because you get, you actually, like some of these athletes have had tests where they grow extra capillaries or capillaries, as you say,
right.
around their arm, so they get greater, but then train low, because when you're low, you can push your body sort of to exhaustion and stretch it. At altitude, it's harder because of the lack of oxygen, you're not getting the muscle engagement. Anyway, it was
that makes sense.
To read about it afterwards, and I just sort of wanted to confirm with you what I felt and what I thought. And
and the thing is, it's really interesting whenever you feel it, I think, right? Because there's that intellectual knowledge, and then then you get there and I don't feel any higher off the ground, because everywhere you look is still technically ground level, right? And so, but there is a difference. And I remember feeling that. And of course, I've been to a few different elevations since then, and it's noticeable. And the body is amazing at adapting. And so, and you see this now there's some, that the EPO thing is what recently the Nobel Prize in Science, there was some guys who got that because they're like, this is why it happens. We've known it for a long time. We just didn't know exactly the mechanisms at play. But even changes, like you say, in capillaries, blood flow, which is promising for the treatment of things such as cancer even. So
they said, like, generally speaking, people who live at altitude, and they said above 2,000 meters, like the instance of cardiovascular disease is almost dropped in half.
Right.
And that's because your cardiovascular system is just so much more efficient, right?
So the cool thing is we can bring that to whatever level we are, right? Yeah. That's the thing that blows my mind. It's like, oh, so we actually have the capacity to put that same stressor on ourselves in acute, not all the time, right? So like if you lived in the mountains, you're getting that stressor, all the time. But if you practice breath work, you're able to actually create these things, and these changes happen. So it's really interesting, especially with the explosion of breath work as a practice now, especially as it's coming to the West, and that's one of those things where I'm excited to see what the next decade holds for breath work, because whenever I was doing my book, when I was writing my book, I did a lot of research as far as like how it was in the West and how it kind of came to be practiced as it's starting to really start to bloom, because if a person says, I'm going to show you some breathing techniques, even today, most of the time it's with some kind of a anger management program or some kind of a thing where it's like, okay, we just want to take some deep breaths now. And, and it's just like, okay, you don't really know what you're talking about. You're just going to tell me to take deep breaths, which in some cases is the worst thing you can do for stress. If you take some deep breaths, I mean, there are times to do it and there's times not to do it. But with the blooming of breath work, it's going to be interesting to see how that affects public health and to see if it really takes off. I'm really excited to see that because, like I said in my book, we have this modern human condition, but which is because we live in a world that's not the same world that our species adapted to live in, right? I mean, nothing is like it was for the vast majority of human history. So it'll be interesting to see, and we're seeing all sorts of deleterious effects, right? And we talk about this in our workshops a lot of the time,
Well, I think your point is very valid, right? It's exciting. I think what it reinforces for me, no doubt, is having a practice that involves breath work that you do daily.
Right.
Sets you up for such a, whether it be for grounding and mental health or physiological benefit, like the discoveries, science always lags, right? Even in that DP documentary, they talk about the lag of science because there's not money to fund this or to prove that. But what'll be interesting as breath work continues to expand is what science will continue to prove. Oh, it does this and it does this and it does this. And you take Wim Hof 20, 30 years ago, the things that he was saying, everyone thought he was a Looney Tune.
Everybody,
silence because he's saying stuff that'll, you're going to get someone killed because, and now time after time, almost everything he said, he's been able to continually, prove, in science. So, so it is exciting. I think, Jesse, you do a fantastic job of Wim Hof's not everybody's cup of tea, right? But there is all kinds of different breath work. And so it's about finding something that works for you and finding a modality or a breathwork modality, but having it on a daily practice has really changed my life profoundly.
Yeah. And it's something that I set timers on my phone. I really try to make sure to integrate breath work of, different kinds in throughout the day. So it's changed my life. And I wake up, I'm still, each day I'm blown away that it's a thing. So, okay, we've got some backlog. I hope you've got time to hang out. Okay. First of all, before we even get to that, so let me just get, this is it's called Groovy. That's the brand name. I have no affiliation with these guys. They just sent me a free case of their non-alcoholic beer. It says 0% alcohol, 100% beer. And then it is an IPA. I will say this, that it tastes like an IPA. However, okay, I mean, I can taste that there's no alcohol in it. So it's not like, because when alcohol's in it, you can taste it, right? But it's actually quite pleasant. It actually is quite pleasant to drink. And I think there's plenty of hops in there. So, I mean, I'm getting a nice little chill, relaxed sensation from the hops, maybe, or something. Maybe it's psychological too. You know how if every time you taste something, yeah, I'll have to take a breathalyzer later. Okay, so Rusty has been patiently waiting, and then also we got Nicholas has got a question too. Okay, so Rusty says, I oftentimes breathe in my nose, I oftentimes breathe in and my nose burns. I typically do breath work in the shower, but away from the water. It allows the humidity to stop the burning. Well, that's kind of that's a great idea. And if so some of you guys might have taken my 6-week online breath mastery course. And if you did, you've heard me rail again about you've got to treat your air. Humidity is incredibly important. And in the northern states, or if you live in the northern hemisphere right now, your heater has been running nonstop. Well, yeah, there's going to be some dryness. Okay, his question. Move down one. His question: any ideas on how to mitigate nose burn so I don't have to do breath work in the shower?
So I don't know, like nose burns, different things, right? Like, the first time I ever tried cognac and I had one of those big symptoms, like that was nose burn to me.
That'll do it.
But about 8 years ago, I had an operation because I had a deviated septum. So, and my nose was like, these holes were much smaller than they should have been.
Yeah.
And prior to that, if I was really doing breath work deeply, which I didn't practice a lot of then, but like it was really like I was having to.
Yeah.
And I would get some sort of I'd get an uncomfortable sensation in my nose that was I wouldn't sort of say it was nose burn, but it got uncomfortable, and so I became a big mouth breather.
It's a natural thing to do because the immediate sensation of pain goes away.
Yeah, exactly.
Now, Rusty, I happen to know Rusty. He did sign up for my 6-week course, but he signed up late, so he can watch the video recordings of the sessions especially where I talk about the nose and all the things that happen in your sinuses. But let's talk about it real quick though. Here's my best advice. If a person is experiencing, maybe it's nose burn or severe dryness of the sinuses due to breath work, a humidifier is the first order of business, and they don't have to be expensive. Even if you get a cheapo, just go down to Walmart or Costco or whatever and get a nice cheap, even a cool mist. And then that right there, you can put it right in front of you if you want to, and do some breath work, that will help. My best suggestion for you, and actually for everybody that took my 6-week breath mastery course, I give you links to actually the humidifiers that I have in my house. But so take a look at that, Rusty. But also, it's a good idea to try to know what the humidity is in your air. And you can make an association between, wow, it seems like the humidity is really low right now. And I seem to have this nose burn. Okay, so I need to say, okay, well, I'm probably having that because it's low humidity. That's most likely it, especially if it seems to go away whenever you're in your shower.
The other thing that comes to mind too, real quick, maybe use a neti pot before you do your breath work.
That's a tried and true method.
Nasal irrigation is great. I do it regularly.
Invented by yogis, I mean, it's been used for centuries. So, and it works, and it feels weird at first, but you get over it, right? And you feel comfortable in your sinuses. All right. So Rusty, I hope that helps. And again, I don't know where you are with the recordings, but take a look at the recording of the session. We talked all about the nose. Let's see here. So Nicholas, he is detailing his email to me. He says, okay, I'm practicing Wim Hof method breath work for 2 years now. Just about after 30 breaths on the first round, my heart rate rises to 125 beats per minute, and I feel anxiety. I usually was able to do 40 to 50 breaths until retention, but now I can't even complete the retention time as after 30 seconds at retention, my heart rate goes up. So he's experiencing anxiety and elevated heart rate when he does Wim Hof method breathing. He says, let's see here. It seems that the adrenaline is just too much for me to handle now. I am continuing the cold showers, but I don't want to give up on the breath work. Okay, cool. And Theo, real quick, thank you so much, my friend Theo, for the super chat. I appreciate that. And if you have a question, just let me know, and you'll be our first one. Enzo, how's it going? All right, so let's talk a little bit about this. So he's experiencing anxiety when he does Wim Hof method breath work. He's been noticing his heart rate is elevated, and and that seems to be a blocking point for Nicholas. I hope you're still on, Nicholas. Let's talk a little bit about it. So my first things, and of course, James, this is me and James. Whenever we go into these things and we don't ever have any plan. We have like a general, we're going to do a Wim Hof method workshop, right? And that's like, are we using your slides or my slides? Which one do we have? Right? It's like they say pretty much the same thing. Okay, cool. And then we have no real script. We just kind of riff on each other. So James, obviously chime in if you want to. But so Nicholas, here's a few things. First of all, you're not alone. This is something that is actually rather, I wouldn't say it's more common than not. I would say you're still, most people don't have this exact thing happen, but I will say you're not alone. Many people, including whenever I was becoming back in 2016, whenever I was actually training to become a Wim Hof method instructor, one of my fellow instructors had exactly this happen. And he started to feel as though maybe he shouldn't do Wim Hof method. And it was interesting because this was during the time between us first getting to meet Wim and kind of getting our assignment to say, hey, okay, you need to train, you need to read these things, you need to really be well trained, and then the masterclass. So it was the time between, and he talked to me about it. And what happens is a few things. First of all, it's totally normal to boost your adrenaline, right? And whenever you're doing Wim Hof method breath work, actually it's been shown our adrenaline does go really high. And that's part of superventilation. That's part of deep breathing. So that's something that's completely natural and normal. But if you're feeling a lot of anxiety, try slowing down the breath, okay? Because sometimes it's just a matter of a person going too fast and too hard. And for a little while, not forever, but for a little while, try slowing it down. And what my friend did, who later on, he did become a Wim Hof method instructor, he decided to do nothing but nasal inhales. And I know a lot of people are like, oh man, but then I won't feel the high or anything. But okay, it's not just about feeling the high. The thing is, you need something to slow you down. And when you do nasal inhales, you're also sending a signal to your autonomic nervous system that you're safe. So you're less likely to have that panicked feeling. And then with a nice slow pace, what you're doing is you're going to still get a great practice out of it, but you need to slow down and maybe not do as many, breaths. Basically, you need to listen to yourself. The other thing that I'm going to say is you're probably also freaking yourself out by looking at your beats per minute. If you're constantly, I'll tell you what, if I look, I've got, at my heart rate monitor here. If I look at that, even just observing it, sometimes it'll go up. And so oftentimes we can really get into our own heads. It is, it's right there. And I see it. I'm naturally, I say this a lot. It is a miracle that I so need breath work, Wim Hof method, all these biohacks. I need them because I'm naturally a warrior. I'm naturally just anxiety ridden person. And I'm the type of person that with a thought, I can go into a state of fight or flight. And we have incredibly powerful brains that make it possible. So when you are experiencing this anxiety, slow it down. And I would say do that. And just, just slow down the breath and see how you feel. And if you want to, something that I did, because there was a time whenever I was overthinking Wim Hof method breath work, I thought I was giving myself high blood pressure. That's first, you heard it here first, never before I admitted this. But so what I did is just a really simple experiment. I took my blood pressure before the breath work, and then I took it after. And guess what? I was lowering my blood pressure. Afterwards, my blood pressure was better. Now, I'm not saying that's always going to be the case for everybody, but there are little tests that you can do. And that is what I would recommend for you. Anything to add to that, James?
Yeah, mate, your advice is pretty much what I would have said. Certainly the nasal breathing helped. The other thing that I would look at is what's happening physiologically. Like one of the things that I'll often say is let your physiology move as your lungs, like as you're inhaling the air. Like if you're really activating your body in order to breathe, then that's sending a nervous signal. One of the things that really helped me in my breathwork mechanics is you breathe into pressure. So breathe into weight, like one of those little sand things, like the doorstop to stop a draft on a door. Have you seen those long tubes of sand or cloth covered sand tube?
It's kind of like a pillow made out of sand or something.
Kind of weighted sort of something that you could lay across the lower part of your belly, around where your belt goes. What I found for me is that you breathe into that pressure. So you'll do the belly, chest, head, rather than like moving your physiology as much. That might be something else, because actually the activation of moving your shoulders, moving your head, like if you're a very active breather, that's going to send signals to elevate the adrenaline and anxiety in a way that we don't want it to. So
yeah, absolutely. You might really, I think, Nicholas, you might really benefit from my next breath mastery course, because we talk a lot about, we actually do some tests on our own physiology. So we do some testing to see, okay, how does this affect me? How does this affect me? So you can create a personalized breathing program for yourself, because maybe there's other breathing techniques that are going to do something that you want it to do. So that might be another option for you as well. Theo says, I look for, and I'm assuming, I don't know, which one of us looks more like someone from Harry Potter? What do you think?
What's so funny about, he brings up Harry Potter. My son's been reading the books. We watched the 2 movies over the weekend. And so I don't know.
Awesome. Well, you got the dark black hair, like one of the characters, and then I have to be the giant dude. I don't know the names now.
Grandolph or
I have to be, the big giant guy with the coat, and he comes and maybe I forget who has the really dark black hair. I do think
about you from time to time when I have to shave. I'm like, maybe
I'm actually, you know what? I can't really release this information right now, but there might be beard freezing in my future. So literal beard freezing on a Great Lake. So we'll see how this, we'll see how this goes.
Yeah. Other questions?
Let's see. Other questions. Let's see here. V. Thomas, no, there's nothing. I wouldn't call this fizzy nonsense. It's actually pretty good.
They've taken some care to make it groovy.
They've done a pretty good job making it groovy. It's something that I'm enjoying right now. I feel like I'm having a beer with a friend, but it's a Wednesday afternoon and I can still go pick up my son from school. Rusty says he's terrified of neti pots. Get over it, Rusty. Let's see. Let's see. Enzo's here. It's always good to see you, my friend. Nicholas says, I'm here. Okay, great. Let's see here. Let's see. Rusty says, I don't do 40 breaths before apnea anymore. I keep breath slow and prolong the exhales. Usually prolong the exhales is another great tip. 185 breaths or beats per minute is a high heart rate, V. Thomas. You should be exercising. Let's hope you're on a stationary bike or something. Papa Geek. Okay, so Papa Geek always gets on me for my conversions from Celsius and Fahrenheit. I recently switched from Android to iOS. Any good app recommendation to track breathing, basic or Wim Hof method? Also, cheers from Sweden. Hey, brother. The Wim Hof method app is for both Android and iOS. However, I am actually in the process of reviewing an app that the developer read my book, and he is developing an app that is based around the principles that I talk about in my book. So I'm talking, how flattering is that? And so I would suggest you can go ahead and try it out. I don't know if it's available for everybody, but I believe it's called Breathe X. So the word breathe. So here's the thing. Okay. So if the word, let's just dissect this, because I was talking about this with my wife last night. Is it Breathe X, or is it, so you're spelling breathe, right? BREATHE-X. Is it Breathe X or is it Breath X? Like EX makes it. So we were debating on how to pronounce it, but Breathe X or Breath EX, depending on how you want to parse that word. That is one that I recently was contacted on. There's another one called Bria.
Well, I'll tell you what, we're in no good shape, mate. If you as an English professor and you're still confabulated about whether it's breath X or X or,
Well, it would take an English professor to be like, well, let's see, how should I parse this word, right? Let's diagram this sentence. Let's see here. We're coming up on an hour. We'll see if we can finish up here in a second. And then, guys, we'll just kind of wrap up and then tell you a little bit more about this, how you can sign up for our workshop. We would love to see you in person. So let's see here. Oh my gosh. So Theo says, maybe he is from the movie Hangover, Mr. Zach Galifianakis, but I like the Harry Potter. I will try a bath in ice for the first time. How not to drown. Okay, so that I'm assuming I am the person he's talking about now. So yeah, I guess Zach Galifianakis, he had a really
maybe from here up. But,
very healthy beard. Okay, here's our last question we're going to take from P. Haggerty. P, it's nice to have you on. And I want to thank everybody else for being here today. P says, hey, Jesse, hey, James, how often do you guys recommend an ice bath or a plunge exposure before it's not beneficial? How many people you got going to your next event? I got on video a few. Okay, so P. Haggerty just now arrived. Cool. So stay with us because we're going to tell you all about this experience we're going to have in late March. But as far as an ice bath or a cold plunge, hey man, do what you feel, right? I mean, I would say, I do say for me, once a day is generally enough, unless I'm hanging out with James, and then Lord knows what we're going to do. But what do you do, James?
I mean, some of the science says you will still feel the benefits, like obviously diminishing, but for up to 6 days. So some of the markers that they mark, right, will last 6 days.
Right.
I'm like in the wintertime, I have access. Obviously, it's easier. So I'm probably every other day in conjunction with cold shower is an ice dip. And I'm talking Lake Michigan, moving icebergs around to jump in.
I've loved okay. So James recently got an Instagram and it's suddenly become my favorite Instagram. You guys, it's Renman, right?
Right. Yeah. At Renman.
At Renman. So check him out on Instagram. So I'm sorry for interrupting, but yeah, James is doing really some fun stuff, moving around all sorts of ice in like Michigan.
Yeah. We've had it free, so it's been fun. But so I'm down there every other day, and some days, but at least 3 times a week during the winter. In the summertime, I'm probably, because then for me it's ice and water in a tub. I'm probably once a week. I don't have a.
Yeah, I've been having a lot of fun with just cold showers lately. And of course, with the insane cold temperatures we've had here, it's really brought the temperature in my shower down real low. So I'd take a cold shower and, of course, roll around in the snow a little bit. There's been some days I absolutely overdid it. And we don't want you to do that. So usually once a day, stay controlled.
If you're feeling the onset of flu-like or feverish or you're a little run down, either dial back the amount of exposure or just drop it and do an extra round of breath.
Anyway, but guys, let's circle back. James, let's talk just real quick. How can people come to our event? What should they do? We did have a question. How many will we have? So we're looking at. It is extremely limited, guys. So it's something you don't want to wait too long to, if you want to do this.
Primarily because we're conscious of COVID, we want you to practice spaced apart, right? And
got a lot of room.
We want everyone to be comfortable. So we're doing breath work, so it's limited space. Again, March 26th, Friday night through Sunday afternoon, March 28th, $425 per room, so that can be twin share. There's a quad share option as well if you have a group of 4 or more where you want to share beds and those sorts of things. Friday night cocktail apps included, breakfast on Saturday and Sunday. The way to make a reservation is to call Sand Valley Resort. Jesse and I will both put up some information. I know I've started to put up some information on my social pages. But they're a little old school in the way they take reservations. It's on the phone so that you can answer any and all questions there. Obviously, Jesse and I'd be happy to answer any or questions if you have before you want to call. But that's the way to do it. They've only just started taking reservations yesterday because we got the go ahead from Sand Valley to just finalizing all the minutia, so that the reservations have only started as of yesterday. So that's why we wanted to do this today. But it'll the last one sold out pretty quickly, and we only had a short time to market it. So it's basically a farewell to winter tour, right?
It's coming. The spring is coming. So. Approximately 25 people, I believe, we're definitely no more than that. We've got a nice area, plenty of room for everybody. And it's going to be a nice experience just to really be with other weirdos like yourself, and to enjoy that communal aspect of breath and ice bathing.
It's a beautiful, beautiful resort. I mean, at the price that we're offering, it's like just going up there and being able to stay and use the facilities, it's almost worth it. So we want to be able to bring it to you with a ton of value. You get 2 instructors who are passionate about the method, and so you get some personalized attention, and we're around during the off time. So Jesse brought his guitar last time, and if I bring my drum, maybe we can bust it out and impromptu. So we want to be there to not only guide and instruct you through some of the Wim Hof method and other breath works, but it's a communal atmosphere. So it's not, we'll be around, our families will be there as well. So we want to really share not only the science and the practice, but a little of who we are, a little of what we do in our practice. And so you'll get some access, to us. That doesn't happen at a regular workshop,
Yeah, absolutely. That's one really cool thing. It's just a lot of fun stuff, and a lot of really cool people that you get to meet. So we hope you join us, guys. Thanks for joining us today. This has been a lot of fun. It's always one of the fastest hours of my day. whenever me and James get to talk on these. So, so anyway, cheers to everybody with a non-alcoholic beer. And hopefully we'll see you guys at